Thank you very much for all coming along. My name's Chris, and I'm going to be presenting a little program of New Zealand music for the classical guitar. This is kind of a bit of a niche and a bit of a kind of uncovered world. Both the classical guitar itself is quite a niche and wonderful instrument, and kind of diving into the works by New Zealand composers have been kind of a really fun, almost kind of a journey to try and find what I could. To start with, I'm going to be playing a piece by a good friend of mine, Michael Stoop. He used to be a composition and performance major here at Victoria University, and this is a beautiful little movement from his sonatina, which makes use of this fantastic effect that we have, pizzicato, which kind of emulates the sound of a plucked string, a bowed string player kind of plucking their string. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to, I guess, quite a well-known New Zealand composer, John Ritchie. And he spent a significant amount of his career in Christchurch as kind of the head of music there. And it was around the time of his retirement that he wrote this piece. It was commissioned by Edric Banks, who was quite a well-known classical guitarist at the time, around 1985. And as the title suggests, it takes its inspiration from the works of Shakespeare. We've got 3 movements, full fathom 5, kind of starting at the depths of the sea, coming from the Tempest. Where is fancy bred? Kind of a questioning of the birthplace of desire from the Merchant of Venice. And blow, blow, thou winter winds. And this one's kind of comparing, I guess, untrue love or false friendships with that of something quite relatable, the chill of the winter winds today. Thank you. This brings us to our next piece by another good friend of mine, Amanda Riddle. And this piece takes its inspiration from the Anton Chekhov play, Uncle Vanya. Not particularly light-hearted. There are elements of humor, but quite heavy topics throughout. The beautiful thing that Amanda's done to kind of bring this piece together is kind of take essential moods from each of the 4 acts and kind of consolidate them down into 4 beautiful movements, each with their kind of central mood and each flowing from one to the next. We have this beautiful kind of plaintive introduction. We have the kind of main themes and especially the beautiful introduction of the main motif, which is kind of this minor third that you'll hear throughout. So listen out to that. We then go into this beautiful, sorrowful second movement, which kind of really builds the tension, going right into this beautiful, tender third movement. And this is obviously beautifully interrupted by our last movement, Restless, where kind of all the tensions of the play are really unraveling. And this is kind of where we conclude with, I guess, the main theme of the whole play, which is this kind of hopelessness. As you'll see, I'm kind of retuning 2 of my strings for this wonderful scordatura that Amanda's included, which I guess sums up the essential mood of kind of this ominous hopelessness. Thank you. This next piece by Kenneth Young, obviously quite a well-known figure around Wellington and New Zealand in general. A wonderful composer and a fantastic conductor as well. He would actually teach at Victoria. And it was during my class times with him that he showed me these three sad waltzes, kind of three little miniatures, quite melancholic in nature and just overall quite beautiful. And these were written for Suzanne Court, who was a wonderful guitarist and who compiled this wonderful catalogue of guitar works, New Zealand guitar works, for a book, Guitar Aotearoa. And this piece was written for that catalogue. Each of the three movements is kind of quite different in nature. We start off with a kind of a rubato, less danceable waltz, perhaps kind of just the imagination of a waltz. And then we move on to a much more rhythmic andante, second movement. And then our third movement is perhaps more French inspired with its harmony, and a lot more modern, really beautiful. Thank you. This brings us to kind of our big piece, I guess, by David Farquhar. This suite was written for Ronald Burt, another kind of big name in kind of the classical guitar scene in the early kind of 50s and 60s. He'd come over from England and was kind of a master of arts, I guess, a guitarist, a dancer, and a painter as well. And this piece, although not the first kind of guitar piece in New Zealand, or to be written by a New Zealand composer, it was kind of the first big piece. Before we'd had kind of Lilburn's 17 pieces and a few kind of shorter pieces by Farquhar as well. But this suite was kind of the first kind of major work, I guess. We start with the prelude, which kind of instigates our main theme throughout, which is kind of two opposing ideas, usually a kind of a beautiful, stable theme with that of something quite antagonistic, and you'll hear that throughout. We'll start with the prelude like this, and then the capriccio, which is perhaps a little more unpredictable, kind of a little sneaky, kind of flowing its own way. This is followed by the ostinato. For this piece, the ostinato is just a repeated pedal note, which you'll hear with these beautiful harmonies kind of colliding around. Our fourth movement is the rondino, and here we have kind of perhaps another antagonistic theme, very chaotic in nature, contrasted with these beautiful kind of stacked fourths and very piano kind of voicings. And this is all summed up with a beautiful epilogue, which kind of takes us out of this chaos and almost give us the imagination that we've come out of a dream. We've kind of awakened. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our program. But before I begin this lovely piece, so many thank yous. Thank you, of course, to St. Andrews for letting us use such a beautiful space. It's not often that classical guitarists get to kind of venture outside the little closets that we have for practice rooms, so it's so beautiful to be in the great outdoors. Thank you, of course, to Jack Richards for sponsoring this concert, and yeah, I really appreciate your help, and thank you very much for that. I guess sounds as well. Thank you very much, Chris, for coming along and kind of documenting these New Zealand pieces, which very often kind of get overlooked. And the biggest thank you, of course, to all of you guys for coming along on such a bit of an iffy day. So thank you for braving the cold, the rain, and coming out and enjoying some classical guitar. The last piece is actually kind of a fun little piece, kind of a nice way to end, by Bruce Payne, who's kind of based up in Auckland. Lovely chap. And this piece was written for a concert that he did at Alberton Hall. And kind of in inspiration of that, he wrote this piece, kind of combining the heritages, whatever it is, of the the building, and there's kind of these two kind of backgrounds, both the Scottish and an Indian heritage. And so what he's done is he's written a bit of a folk piece inspired by kind of a Scottish folk song, and kind of given it these fun little elements, kind of making it reminiscent of perhaps some Indian folk music, sitar-ish kind of effects going on.